Well, thank you very much, Professor, for the invitation. Thank you all, actually, organizers and the guests, because in my opinion, such kind of initiative, it is very important, especially that non-government organizations in general, I'm not sure how is it in Western Europe, but in Poland, it's much more occupied by leftist, liberal ideologies that are not always corresponding to our also national interests. So initiatives like this is like raindrops needed to our shared dialogue and to meet each other and make some boundaries, because without bindings, because without that kind of bindings, without knowing each other, people who are sharing some kind of the same perspective, how the European Union also should change, or will stay alone. So thank you very much. Thank you very much once more. Well, you, Professor, asked how could the Schuman fraction protect the Christian symbolism, the Christian virtues? Well, I would maybe start with asking ourselves how to build the Schuman fraction in the European Parliament, because as you said earlier, EPP that, well, used to be maybe some time ago, so longer time ago, a fraction that was called the Christian Democrats. Well, they are very far from the roots. They are very far from the philosophy that shared also Robert Schuman. So I believe that you are right saying that there are many members of this party that just do not feel that they suit this fraction. They are there because maybe there is some kind of routine, but probably also because there is no better place for them to be. There is no good alternative. Good alternative, what I mean as a good alternative, I mean some such kind of different power in the PE that also has influence. Because of course, for example, Polish Law and Justice deputies, they are in the ECR. In a fraction that was very much established by British deputies. We know what happened to Great Britain, what also happened to European Union just 2 years ago, actually, maybe even this January, because then the trade treaty was finally ratified. So we should ask ourselves, is there a space? Is there a space for a different fraction that would also represent people in Europe, people that they are not embarrassed of their roots, they are not embarrassed who they are, and they understand that European Union, without knowing where it came from, is just a dead end. So yes, I strongly believe that right now, during these very dynamic times in international, also European politics, it is time for such fraction to be established in PE. I believe that ECR is not enough. We need something. We need something new. We need a new brand. We need something that also different members in the PE, especially in EPP, can see as something that can compete with the EPP. And what that fraction should do, what should they have in the agenda? Surely, well, first of all, is what we all are here, what we all probably, most of it, understand and feel that it is enriching Europe, it is enriching our country. So the Christianity, the values, the natural laws, if you are not Christian, but you believe of course, in natural laws, because sometimes you always should understand what is truth and what is just obvious lie. And nowadays, in this, let's say, modern progressive Europe, there is a lot of beautiful words, a lot of political correctness, but this political correctness, which happens to be, for example, like in France, when the people that are pro-life has got pro-life ideas, they represent the values of life from the beginning to natural death. When they started just some time ago, I think it was about 2 years ago, when they started to appoint a new kind of strategy toward the fight of opening the French people eyes about the abortion, about the results of it, what does it really mean? Well, what happened when they created a movie, let's say a commercial, that was just showing people with Down syndrome smiling, like in a good mood, showing that they can cherish their life, that they can be happy, just like that. Well, what happened in France? French public television have forbidden that kind of commercial during the commercial block to appear, because what they said, it could feel pregnant women in France, they could feel bad about it, right? They could like mix their mind about that kind of things of abortion, or what is good or what is wrong in that case scenario. And more of that, the pro-life activists went to court with that. And what did the French court? Well, he stood up for the people that have forbidden this action. So, for example, we have this obvious like break of free speech. We have this obvious break of like natural, also individual freedom of sharing our own values. And on the other hand, the other side of this, we could say even philosophy side, can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want. The mainstream is realizing this agenda that is very much, I'm sure of that, not in taste of many countries, also members of the P in the European Parliament. And this is this one thing, the roots, the ideology, philosophy, we could say philosophy of Schumann, the Christianity, are roots. But there is also the other factor that I believe that is also for many very attractive. It is the fact that Western Europe, with their, well, I've read one very good book, it was called Beautiful Suicide. It got some really bad decisions on their back, decisions that are currently are just currently diversing their societies very much. I mean, not only showing back to their natural Christian roots, but also like giving some kind of emphasis to new way of life, to new lifestyle, or even creating some kind of experiments on society as the multiculturalism. And it is not at that time somebody who do not like people from different cultures, because I love traveling. I really think that it's one of my biggest enjoyments, things that give me the most joy, traveling and meeting new people from different cultures. When we start to believe, or when we start, our government starts, like in France or like in Germany also, start to collapse their governmental political. As collapse, I mean, for example, just shutting down parties of its nation, parties of its country towards the public government, public, well, legal framework actually, because there are districts, there are especially suburbans in big French cities, also in different European countries, that are just shut down for like respecting real law that is voted in their parliaments and etc. Well, if there is that kind of collapsement, and if it still doesn't shake the politicians' heads that something's going on, even the society is saying that, even the people are saying that there was a real big mistake and we need to in some kind of correct it. But if there is no real political will to correct these mistakes that may act in a decade or two in very, very big problems. Also maybe to the problem of splitting blood in these countries, in civil wars of some way, maybe hybrid civil wars. We don't know. The world is changing very much. Well, it shows that also that countries are just looking for the people from those countries, and I think also many politicians, they are just looking not only for Schuman, but they are looking for common sense. Common sense, I think it's a word that we also need to appreciate more and more in European Union. And I think the third factor that is especially very interesting and very on time toward the Middle Europe. I've seen at the President Lucjusz Nadbereżny back of his office or his room, I've seen a statue of Marshal Pilsudski. Well, he had this idea of some sort. It wasn't realized as we know, but he had the idea of intermarum, like this community of countries from the Baltic Sea to the Mediterranean and to the Black Sea. It didn't happen then, because of obvious circumstances. But right now, Poland, the other countries of our region, well, we have the mistakes on our back what made the Western European Union countries. We have much more conservative, much more based on varieties societies, and we are growing in economy rapidly. We would say even rapidly towards our friends from the West. So I think the question is, when would it be the good time to create something new, if not now, when the countries from old Europe, we could say, that are in the mainstream, that are believing in the political correctness, where the people of those countries are getting also more and more worried about what is going on in there. On the other side, we've got quite peaceful Middle Europe that is growing in economy, that are sharing the values, and I believe we've got stronger and stronger allies, also transatlantic allies, what did not only President Trump, but also President Biden is showing that he's very much interested in our initiative of intermarum. Just a few weeks ago, he took part in the G9 of the NATO. So I think that times are changing, and times are changing if we stay together. The times are changing in our favor, in favor of countries that treat their history, the history of Europe, the we could say, fundamental rights like the freedom of speech, like real democracy, seriously. So I'm maybe for many of you it's astonishing, but I'm quite optimistic person towards what will be in Europe established in near future. We just need courage, and we just need one very, very other important thing. We need to start making interpersonal connections. And it's not only about the politics, but for example, the Schumann's institutes, which represent Professor Krysiak and many others, should start expand to the Middle and South Europe countries to just create these bonds, to create bonds in cultural meaning, economical, of course, not only political, because we need trust. To build something new and big, competitive in Parliament, European Parliament, we need to create also trust between our societies in relation person to person. And then there will be no need to ask such a question, I believe strongly, Sir Professor, how to defend Christianity or the various varieties that it brings with itself. I think then it will be natural. Then there will be no need of asking